one thing is key in this conversation is the need for us to continuously upskill ourselves. Upskilling is very crucial, right? And you also need to realize that if your work is a bit mundane, okay, that there's a possibility that technology will do that work for you.
Hi, Chibundu. Nice to have you on the call. How are you doing?
Thank you, Wilson. It's a pleasure. Thank you. I'm fine. Doing good.
Okay, maybe before we start, maybe a brief introduction. Who is Chibundu? How did you get to be on the Group Blog podcast?
Oh, well, how would I will start by saying that my name is Nnorom Chibundu. I'm currently working, with a company here in Oman, Energy Development Oman. And just to say also that the thoughts I'm sharing now are my thoughts and not in any way a representation of my organization's thoughts. Yeah, this is just my understanding and learning around, my experience as being a recruiter. I kicked off my career early on as a recruiter. However, my first degree was petrochemical engineering from River State University of Science and Technology. And I went on to further my studies with an MBA from Conti Business School. Okay. I had previously worked with Shell in the capacity of a recruiter. And then I was hired here for an organization called OQ, where I did recruitment as well, talent acquisition in a sense, helping develop strategies, implement those strategies to fulfill, the organization's demand in terms of identifying talent and attracting them and bringing them to the organization. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's me. I have been helping in the sense few people I can connect with in terms of my network as well, even on social media to inform, to educate people around how they can prepare themselves in terms of succeeding in an organization, as well as preparing themselves in a way that they are marketable and organizations are attracted to them. Yeah. This is Chibundu.
Thank you, Rad. Yeah, nice to meet you, Chibundu. So let's go straight to it. First of all, having to transition to recruiting and then talent management, when that wasn't the first degree, how was that like for you? And was it something you envisaged? Was it something that came out of passion, or did life happen?
It's an interesting thing. Yeah, I had graduated from university at the time, and of course, it was around the time where organizations were also not very keen on hiring at the time. So I started thinking about what to do because I was passionate about engineering, especially process engineering at the time. I did a bit of small things in terms of lecturing in the university, just helping my supervisor at the time when I rounded off to take some of his courses. So the passion was there, but the opportunities weren't there. And so I realized that I had to quickly, set myself up in the way that I would succeed. If this wasn't working, I had to look for something else to work. And so my first experience basically from my youth service days in Nigeria, if you're in Nigeria and you know what Nigerian youth service is, I had done my service in Shell at the time. And typically if for a process engineer that had gone to Shell, you would think you was probably be sent to to worry or stuff. I wasn't biased. I was working in the government relations. I was working in the government relations team at the time. And of course, that's where this whole thing started. And when the opportunity came for me to kick off my career from the HR side of the business, I said, well, the beauty about engineering is that you get to learn everything and then you can do everything. If you look across the banks in Nigeria, for instance, you will find a lot of engineers working in those banks. Yeah. And one of the the funny trends I observed when I was a recruiter in Shell, especially for the investment roles that we had at the time and finance roles, very key finance roles that had to do with investment banking and all that. The thing was that most of the chemical engineers or engineers that came from Imperial College, for instance, were investment bankers at the time. And that got me really thinking and saying, okay, so I'm not just the lone voice on this part, or I'm not the only person working on this part. There are a few others like me who had gone ahead of me maybe as well. So yeah, I was flexible around it. I spoke to a few people who were quite my seniors at the time in the organization to say, see, I had done a few years. And of course, there are a few opportunities again while I started working as an HR professional. There are a few opportunities in the engineering space as well, but it meant that I was going to start all over again, from scratch. And at the time also, I wasn't willing to take that another sacrifice. I didn't want to have inconsistencies. So I spoke to a few people who advised, see, you built a career here, stay, grow yourself. You have, okay, so where do you think, where do you see yourself in the next few years? What do you think you need to do and all that? So I started thinking about it. I think that's mostly what drove me to recalibrate and then to start preparing myself for the next roles and putting that steps day after day to ensure that I was ready for future opportunities. So yeah, it was mostly a mindset shifting. I had to do like a proper reevaluation of what I wanted and what is available in time. And I made my decision around this, and I haven't regretted it in any way. It's been a beautiful ride, a lot of lessons learned. In fact, one of the most beautiful things for me as well in this role is the opportunities I have to put a smile on somebody's face, especially when I make an offer to you. I've heard young grads scream and shout, and call their parents and all that. So those things, they keep you going as well. And then of course, if you counsel people, just recently, few people I manage in my network as well. I counseled them around how to prepare for interviews and all that. And they had gone and succeeded and came back and told me, see, I'm very thankful for your advice and all that. So yeah, I think I'm very much in the right place. And again, I'm dealing with people. Now it's more about behavioral engineering, if I want to say that. Yeah.
Good perspective, and I like the whole self-reflection part of things because most of us set out for different things, and obviously you need to look at what's happening. You need to look at the future trends and make informed decisions. So I like that key point where you had to think about it, not just today, tomorrow. What is it going to be like? And now finding something you're quite passionate and excited about. I think that's just phenomenal. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about talent acquisition, talent management. We have a lot of smart people on earth, I believe. We have people doing amazing things. So, but what can make someone stand out as a talent? What can they do to differentiate themselves?
I think there's something they call the USP, unique selling point, that everyone should have, right? And as a product, for instance, I always envisage people as products, right? You as the person, you are a brand, for instance, and so you want to sell your brand. If you had walked into a shop, for instance, to buy something, or whether it was a clothes or a shoe and all that, it was mostly the brand that attracted you, the value of that brand that attracted you. So we as individuals need to start seeing ourselves more and more like that, and to ask yourself, what are organizations doing to position themselves in a way that people are attracted to them, or what are these organizations doing in a way that their products are basically the number one on the shelf, for instance, if people wanted to go to I'll use an example, very similar example, something you might be familiar with. If again you're a Nigerian, so you will know this. The tea bag in itself, the tea bag, right?
Yeah.
Most Nigerians call it Lipton.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not, it's not because there aren't any other products out there that have different names. But if you wanted to tell somebody I want tea, you hardly say I want Lipton.
Yeah.
All right. It's because of the effort that Unilever, for instance, have put, into making that product so visible that you would choose it. In fact, you reference it anytime you want to talk about anything that has to do with tea. And so that's also how we should position ourselves to stand out, whether it's in academics, for instance. When you look across board, the minimum criteria, for instance, it says a bachelor's. What is that extra thing you have? And to realize, for instance, that there's not one universal CV for every job, for instance, that you need to modify your CV, for instance, in a way that it attracts the person, highlighting the competencies they are looking for, especially if you have those competencies and you've demonstrated it in different areas. Beyond that fact as well is the fact that when of course then that the opportunity comes for you to have a face-to-face interview, for instance, what do you say? How do you speak? How do you speak in a way that you're selling yourself, that people are saying, this is what I want, this is the person I want, right? As much as you want to join an organization, and so you're asking yourself, why is this organization an important organization I want to join? Why am I so keen on joining this organization? That's how you should be asking yourself, why should the organization hire me, for instance? And this is not just for people who are outside of it. Even internally, you should be asking yourself that question: how do I reposition myself in a way that I become invaluable to the organization, right? Where am I today? Where do I want to be? What are the plans I've put in place to close those gaps I've identified that might be barriers for me to realize my goal and my dream, right? Or objective of getting to this point. So these are the things I think that, when you identify them, you set yourself in a way that you are exceptional.
Very good points. And I think it takes time, one, and then one needs to be intentional to build that. Because like you said, if everybody has what you have, how do you then differentiate yourself? How do you set yourself apart? And what are
Absolutely.
some of the key things? I know some people go for certifications, some people go for maybe volunteering roles and other things. But from your experience, so fresh out of school, for example, with little or no experience, what can they start doing now? I recently had someone reach out to me to say, I want to go into the energy sector, and I want to know what to do to prepare myself to stand out. But I just graduated. I don't have any work experience. So in that scenario, since you've worked with probably graduates before, what do you think they can start doing now, even while in school and just graduating, to prepare themselves for that future when it comes?
I think first things first, so we need to go back to the school side first before we come to what you need to do. And for instance, you one of the things that made you stand out, for instance, was you were basically an assistant in Shell, right? At some point, you did assistant internship, and assistant internship, they don't just pick them from anywhere. You have to be academically sound, and that should show in your CGPA. Right? That means you're doing something right. And when the department decides to pick the best students in your department or in the faculty, your name comes up first. That's how to stand out. You need to take your grades seriously, ensuring that you have the right grades. For opportunities like this, some schools have a level of understanding with organizations, right, across board, to say that we will be providing you like almost a regulated talent to continuously, flow through your pipeline of talent. So these are the grads. We ensure that the ones that are very good, you have line of sight to them for that development. So that's one area, right? good grades. Second bit, the thing is, you need to prepare for your interviews. Again, I go back to this, or prepare for the opportunities that would come. You need to learn how to write your CV. Speak to people who have experience in doing this. Sometimes it might be, some people charge you for that, if that is the cost, whatever. But if you can also do it yourself. There are a lot of materials online on how to prepare your CVs in a way that it stands out. And now, of course, we have AI. There's an AI integration and this is an important and incredible part to basically infuse into future development of your CVs and all that, right? You also have a part to play. The question is, if you're sitting on the other side of the table, would you be hiring somebody who has this? Because I don't know you. Organizations typically, especially on the grad side, they're not expecting you to have experience, and that is the truth. But when it comes to the discipline itself that they're hiring you for, there are basics that you should be aware of. If you're an engineering student, for instance, you should know the fundamentals, whether it's from physics to chemistry or whatever translates into what you do, for instance, you should be aware of it and you should know it very well. In a way that if they ask you questions around that, you should be able to respond very well, because they know that you are a grad, you have zero experience. The other thing that will help you also is when you have opportunities for internship in organizations, you take it seriously. You go there, you put in the work, you learn, you ask questions. And there's no stupid question per se, because you don't know, you want to learn. So you ask until you get information. Oftentimes, people remember what you did in the past. And if opportunities come up as well, they contact you to say, this person is good. They demonstrated this, right? And I'm referring this person. Of course, there will be opportunities for you to compete with other people, because most organizations are equal opportunity employers. So they'll give other people opportunities. But unfortunately, or I say fortunately for you, the individual, there is already a level of bias, because every human has biases. Again, most organizations are able to reduce the effect of the bias by having opinions of a few other people in the panel. But if you don't have a job, there's no need waiting. You can be doing a master's alongside, and then you're doing what's it called? You're searching for a job. Okay, opportunities to do vocational training, you pick it up, you learn. Is continuous. Is that you should be in that space where you're continuously learning, because what learning does for you is that it refines you. It sets you apart from other people. You're having human interaction, and that interaction changes you, whether you like it or not. It changes you. You start seeing things from a different perspective, and that's how we are as humans. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now let's switch to the organizations. A lot of talents. Some organizations bring in very good talents, but sometimes they don't stay. Opportunities are springing up here and there. Some people due to lack of job satisfaction. So these people are good. Now you've passed the hurdle of coming in, you're in. What are some things organizations can do to make sure they retain the best talent? From what I've heard, is expensive. It's more expensive to get in a new person than to even skill existing people. So how can they manage their talent pool in a way that they are satisfied, the talents are satisfied, and they want to remain in the organization? What are some things they can do?
I think that's very well. Basically, it's an interesting area, and you can't have it 100%. People will always leave. You make preparations for that. People will always leave, right? But on the other side of what you can do to, keep your talent refreshed is, again, realize is to categorize your talents. All right, when you categorize your talents, you know who the high potentials are. These are the most critical assets for you, and that's where you should invest in. Investment in areas of developing them should be there. Stretch opportunities, for instance. Growth, you need to also understand for them what growth is. What are they looking at? And that's where you can find it, for instance, in their individual development plan internally, where the individual has listed out what their aspirations are, okay, and what they want to do. And to see if that also aligns with what the organization is thinking in their direction, because these people are very important, right? Now, there are opportunities for instance, secondment, especially when you know that within the organization, there's no headroom, but there's a joint venture agreement somewhere where this person can go and learn something different for them to be, if there's an alignment with their career plans as well. That's very, very important, career plans, because that conversation should happen. And that opportunity for secondment can help them, or cross-posting in most cases it's also secondment, right? And they go for that until they are ready. Again, you have to pull your talent, ready later, ready now, ready in 2 years' time. So those categories, for instance, and you need to keep them motivated, okay, by giving them new or tasking jobs that will keep them engaged. This engagement comes when people are no longer motivated and job has become mundane. And the environment has become toxic as well. It's no longer enabling growth. Everything is stifling. The more you want to raise your heads to grow, or you're looking for sunlight in a sense, at a plant, for instance, the more someone wants to close that opportunity for you. And then, of course, you realize that this place no longer is good enough for you. And then it's important then to start looking out. Yeah, that happens. But most times, what organizations can do to retain talent is to keep them engaged. Engagement is important. Engagement, whether it's in the scope of work they do, the kinds of job they are doing, okay, or the opportunities you're presenting to them. And that's very important. There are other elements as well that we all think is important as well, is the financial side of things. But it's not sustainable in the sense, because for how long would you keep increasing people's pay and all that? But there are other benefits you can put alongside. These days, organizations are learning how to tailor their total rewards in a way that it speaks to individuals. It is mostly bespoke in a sense. They identify the specific need that Again, it's like doing customer categorization in product management. For instance, their psychology, what they want, all that information you're gathering, you can use to tailor products that would, or total rewards that would speak to whatever bucket you find yourself that you fall into. That reward system can speak to that need and keep you excited for a time period until, again, there's a new opportunity or there's something else within the organizations that keeps you motivated and keeps you going, and you keep performing optimally as well. So I think these are the few things organizations can do. It's not rocket science. Certain organization reluctance from leadership in certain organizations. It's been some organizations don't know, leaders don't know that. They don't know the challenge or that will come from losing a high potential talent. The issue here is, and they always feel like everyone is replaceable. But if you invested that much in someone, you want that person to be able to give back. And people can say, fine, you can leave. We'll find somebody who has another 10 years experience like you do, and you bring them. But what you bring into your organization is a mixed bag of people coming from other organizations with different cultures, different belief system and all that, and they come and they disrupt what you're already building. All right. And so again, when you look at the cost of losing a top talent in your organization, or even somebody who is an operational performer, he just performs optimally. He's not looking to grow. He just wants to. He's not looking for an opportunity to become the MD. He just wants to come to the office every day, do his bits that adds to the bottom line. He gets rewarded from time to time, and understanding those things basically, and doing the cost benefit of keeping your talent happy, excited, right? Can go a long way in changing their mindset in terms of how they view talent. I think the first thing first is for organizations to, or the leadership in organizations to step a bit backward and to say,
okay,
what are we going to do to keep our people engaged and happy? Or even not just, if they're not happy, let them be at least motivated. Because again, you cannot make
can they be
everybody happy.
motivated if they're not happy?
Yeah. Why I say that motivation can go a long way, right? But
Yeah.
happiness is happenstance. It's
Mm.
something driven by something. So if that thing is taken away, happiness disappears. But motivation can be more enduring, if I can use that word. Yeah.
Good point. Finally, let's just talk future of work. The world as we know it is changing. Things are faster. Things are, changing at a very rapid rate. And I believe the future of work as well will see some changes for people who are, they love their career, they want to keep growing. What are some things they can start doing to make sure they are not left behind? Because the changes if you see over the last 5 years has been enormous compared to probably the previous years. It might take probably 10, 15 years to see a huge change in technology, processes, perception, right? But these days, within 2 years, it's like, for example, ChatGPT of 2021 and the ChatGPT today, there's a huge change. How will that affect work? How will that affect talent? How will that affect people who want to grow up in their career? They want to go far. What should they do to prepare for that future?
Yeah, the future of work. This conversation is quite interesting because it throws up a lot of sentiments. Yeah. If you ask me what the future of work is something that, for instance, myself is also trying to figure out. Okay, but one thing is key. One thing is key in this conversation is the need for us to continuously upskill ourselves. Upskilling is very crucial, right? And you also need to realize that if your work is a bit mundane, okay, that there's a possibility that technology will do that work for you. And what then happens? But you then have where you will be relevant, and how you identify that is, again, back to self-reflection and looking at your skill set that you have, and to say, where can this skill set in a sense mirror itself outside of what I'm currently doing? Where can I find a similar thing that is being done? How big there are more body of knowledge in the sense around that scope. And I say, okay, there are 10 competencies in the other scope I'm saying, okay, there's a possibility I have, okay, let me go back a bit. There are 10 scopes in this new place that I'm looking at. And in my job scope, right, I have 6 of that scope. And there's 4 missing, for instance, in that other scope. I ask myself, how do I close that gap? The opportunity within my organization, for instance, to, quickly do cross-functional learning to upskill myself in that space, and then to help my transition. Because, for instance, I know that AI is going to disrupt how work is done, and it might impact me. Okay, or how do I even leverage this technology that is disrupting everything to in a sense, improve the quality of work that I turn in a way that I'm still relevant. Okay, for instance, there are examples now where more and more there is AI helps you to refine your searches when you're looking for a new candidate, or you're searching for talents, for instance, on LinkedIn or most platforms that have already integrated AI. What it means, for instance, is you need to learn how to probe. Probing is a skill. Probe the technology in a way that it gives you exactly what you're looking for, or close to what you're looking for. Okay. And then it leaves you opportunity for you to do more business partnering, for instance, instead of spending a lot of your time searching for talent online. The AI helps you do that bit, or when it comes to screening and all that. So it's learning how to do those new things that keeps you relevant. For instance, you're able to turn in your turnaround time to identify candidates move from say 2 weeks to 3 days. You're closing roles faster. But again, closing roles faster means that by the end of the year, you might not have anything to do, right? So how
To
how do
balance
you
that.
manage that as well, right? Yeah, how do you manage that as well? It's again, it's a conversation that is ongoing that people are still trying to understand. But the most important element in all this is upskilling, doing that self-evaluation, doing the gap analysis, identifying where your gaps are, and closing them by taking steps. I oftentimes, for instance, when I have interviews and I'm asking people, what is your motivation? Okay, where do you see yourself in the next 5, 6 years in your career? And someone say, oh, I want to become a manager of recruitment, for instance. And then the person stops there. Now, you've told me you want to be the manager, recruiting manager for which company and as company. But the thing is, you haven't been able to tell me detailed steps that you're going to take to get there. So for instance, identify today that this is where I am. Okay. And for me to be a manager, I need to have these skill sets. And so because I've identified those skill sets and this is where I am today, I am doing X, Y, Z to close that gap and to be ready for the opportunity. I'm shadowing this person. I've engaged a mentor, for instance, to mentor me. Yeah. Because mentoring is important. You can't run away from it as long as you are living, whether it's formal or informal work you're doing. Yeah. There's somebody you need to look up to that I have, by reason of years, gained experience in certain things, and you haven't gained that experience. It's failing is not a bad thing, but there are pitfalls that you can avoid if you know the red flag. Right? And people who have experienced those things can point in the right direction and say, okay, when you walk this path, when you get to this point, there's a red flag there. You can avoid it completely. And so that's why mentoring is important.
Yeah, thanks, Chibundu, for those points of scaling ourselves, networking, mentorship. I think they are very good things that people need to start doing to prepare for that future. So thanks for your insight on that. Yeah, so if people want to reach you, how can they get across to you to learn from your wealth of experience?
I think I'm readily available on LinkedIn. I know that sometimes I will not respond to everybody at the pace they want, but I eventually would respond. Yeah, I think that's one of the, if it's work related and learning related, I think that's one of the easiest ways to reach me. I'm on LinkedIn and you can always chat me up, ask questions. And if it's within my knowledge space to respond, of course, I will be providing that response as quickly as I can. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for making our time for this. I know it's a busy period for everyone. Second half of the year, and everyone is just, yeah, let's keep going.